some of the best brakes that I've ever seen on a sub $2,000 bike. So Ride1Up really nailed it by putting these Tektro brakes on here. Now this is the Ride1Up Prodigy XR, and this is an exciting bike because it comes in under $2,000, offers a mid-drive motor, and a ton of features that you might not find on some even higher end name brand bikes. Let's go ahead, let's dive into all the details and why I think that this could possibly be the best commuter bike on the market today. Now the big thing that we want to start out with is the motor. This is a mid-drive motor. On the Prodigy XR and anything in the Prodigy line, you're going to get a Bros mid-drive motor that produces a massive 90 Newton meters of torque. This also has a built-in torque sensor, so the sensitiveness on the pedals is going to be really nice. If you want to lightly pedal and get a little bit of power, that motor will provide it. But if you want to push and get all 90 Newton meters of torque, this thing will take you upwards of 28 miles an hour. And let me tell you, as a Class 3 e-bike, this is going to be one of the fastest and also one of the smoothest bikes you've probably ever been on. And part of the reason why this bike is so smooth and also so quiet are these Schwalbe G1 tires. These things might not look like they have a ton of grip, but whenever you're out on the road, whether the road is wet or dry, these tires grip like crazy and you can hardly hear them rolling on the ground. It's one of my favorite features about this bike. The motor's extremely quiet, the tires are extremely quiet, and even the drivetrain is super, super quiet. This bike is one of the most chill bikes I have ever ridden, and I absolutely love commuting on it. Now, I've personally already put 79 miles on this bike in the very short period of time that I've had this, and it is definitely one of my go-to bikes anytime that I'm gonna be commuting around my town. Now, with this particular Class 3 bike, being that it's a mid-drive, it does not come with a throttle. So if you're looking for a bike with a throttle option on it, this might not be the bike for you. But I think that if you got on a bike like this, you would see how natural this bike feels. Now, this is a 36 volt system, and it also comes with a 14 amp hour battery. And Ride1Up claims that you can get somewhere around 30 to 50 miles with this. My personal experience, riding on the highest setting of boost and doing some pretty hilly terrain, I can get around 20 to 25 miles, all depending on the riding conditions and the route that I choose to ride. Now, the charger that's going to come with this is a 2 amp charger. So being a 14 amp hour battery, you are looking around 7 hours to fully charge this bike if it's completely dead. Now, this bike comes with some really nice features on it. The first thing are the metal fenders, both front and back. These are really slick looking. They're really tight to the tire. So you do want to make sure that you get these adjusted properly. Otherwise, you may hear a little bit of tire rub on the actual fender, but these look really, really good. With a little bit of plastic and a little bit of metal, that combination makes it look super premium. And then if we take a look at the back, you are going to get this really nice rack that looks like it's kind of floating there. It's attached to the fender and then down on the frame. In the back, you are going to get a tail light. Now, one of the downfalls of this particular bike and the Prodigy line in general is that that tail light does not wire into the brakes. So it doesn't light up whenever you start braking like we've seen on some other bikes. Now, another thing on this rack is you do get these nice bars right here that will work with most standard pannier bags. Now, the only downfall of this rear rack that I have found is that there is no hook down here to actually hook in your pannier bag. I believe they fixed that on the Prodigy V2, which is their newer model that they came out with. Now, this does come with a Zoom seat post and a relatively nice, kind of soft seat. I find this to be pretty comfortable, a little bit more comfortable than some of the other bikes I've reviewed. It's got a nice relief cutout in here to kind of relieve some of that pressure whenever you're sitting on this for a long time. Now, looking up front here, it did take me a little bit to get used to these curved back handlebars. It does feel very commuter, or what I like to say, Mary Poppins. You feel really upright, and at first, I didn't truly enjoy that, but the more and more I rode it, after about 30 miles, I really actually enjoy that upright feel when you're out on a commuter bike. Now, on each side of the handlebars, you are going to get these nice ergonomic grips. Now, looking a little bit further in, you are going to get some awesome brakes. These are Tektro Orion 4P brakes. So that means that there's 4 pistons in each brake. So front and back, you're gonna get a 4-piston brake setup. These brakes are brakes that you find on higher end mountain bikes, not typically what you see on commuter bikes. You're gonna have 0 issues stopping this bike. With 180 millimeter rotors, both front and back, I'm telling you, these are some of the best brakes that you will ever find on a sub $2,000 bike. And then looking a little bit closer in here, you are going to get a relatively small Bros display. And the display actually does a really good job for its size. It's gonna be displaying what pedal assist level you're in, how much battery life you have on the side, whether or not your headlight is turned on, and then your miles per hour. But then you can flip through a menu system of just about every single different type of setting, from cadence to power to range to trip distance to time running. This thing is loaded with a ton of information that it can display. Now it is limited to one thing at a time, and if you want to get to one thing and if you passed it, you have to cycle all the way through it. But for as small as this display is, it really does give you a ton of information if you really want it. Now the headlight on this isn't super bright, but that's pretty common with most of these bikes. And the nice thing is that this is a Bros motor, so you could go with a Magic Shine light that integrates in, and a Magic Shine light would definitely give you a much brighter light than what this one's gonna produce. Now, one of the things that I really like is this Advent micro shift setup. This is the 9-speed setup, so you're gonna get plenty of gears. This system shifts super well. And one of the other really nice features on this bike is they've added in a shift sensor, so you don't wind up wearing down your drivetrain. One of the things with a mid-drive motor is if you shift too aggressively and you don't have a shift sensor on it, then all that power is going to your chain and then into your cassette, and you can wear out components pretty quick. But with a shift sensor, it temporarily shuts off the motor as you're shifting, and it's super quick to turn off and then turn back on. So that way you're not damaging your drivetrain whenever you're going down the road, shifting through your gears. So down here, you do get an extra spot to be able to run an additional cable or a wire. So if you want to run something else internally, you can do that on this bike. They left an open spot on the Prodigy XR. All right, with all that said, let's go ahead and let's take the Prodigy XR out and just show you guys how smooth and quiet this bike actually is, and take it over and see how well this Bros motor with a torque sensor does on that 19% hill climb. All right, so here we are on the Prodigy XR. And I just want you guys to listen really quickly how quiet this bike is. I'm going 14 miles an hour here. It's a little bit windy and we're going up a hill. This bike is so quiet. Pedaling up a hill, that means the motor is actually really working. I've got it on boost mode and you can't hear the motor over the noise of the tires, and the tires are already dead quiet. This bike is so awesome when it comes to how peaceful it is to ride. That's really the only words that I can come up with on this bike. It's just a peaceful ride. They nailed it when it came to a cruiser style kind of commuting type bike where it's just comfortable and just pure joy to ride this bike. Now, as you guys can see, the handlebars do curve back quite a bit. And like I said, that did take me a little while to get used to. But now that I put over 79 miles on this bike, I really do enjoy these curved handlebars. It gives you a real comfortable feel and a real comfortable position whenever you're commuting to work or just around town. Now we'll test out the brakes here. These brakes are phenomenal. These brakes are better brakes than what I have on a few of my $2,000+ mountain bikes. I mean, you can lock up both tires if you want to on this. They're super smooth. They have really good modulation to them, so you can lightly squeeze them and get an actual feel for the brakes. These things are some of the best brakes that I've ever seen on a sub $2,000 bike. So Ride1Up really nailed it by putting these Tektro brakes on here. Now this bike does not have any suspension. And honestly, for me, being that this is a commuter bike, I don't really think you need to have suspension. Now, if they put a decent air fork on it, like what you'll find on the V2, that's a little different. You're gonna get into an area where you're gonna get really nice suspension, but if they were gonna go with just a standard, you know, hydraulic suspension that we see on so many brands, I'm glad they passed on it. I'm glad they went with just a standard fork up front. I think it gives it a sleek look to this bike, makes it a little bit lighter, and it also makes it a little bit more responsive whenever you're in the corners. Now, the shifting on this bike is really precise, and whenever you are shifting going up a hill, you will notice that shift sensor turn on and off. So that did take me a little bit to get used to that shift sensor actually shutting the motor off. And what I find, if I'm going up a pretty steep hill, I may shift 2 gears, and you may find that it cuts off if you're on a steep hill that you wish that you had shifted 1 more gear. So a lot of times on super steep hills, I will actually shift twice just to go ahead and get me down into an even easier gear. Now, on boost mode, this thing has a ton of pep, but with that torque sensor, you can lightly pedal and go as slow as you want. But if you want to have that pickup, you've got it right there all the time. That's why I prefer to ride pretty much every one of my e-bikes, especially the ones with torque sensors, in the highest setting, because I can control it more variably with my pedals than what I can, say, if it's like with a cadence sensor. And we're gonna start heading over to where the hill climb is. And this thing is just putting out power. It's, man, this thing is so smooth. You guys can see I am up to 25 miles an hour, and this thing is just working. It just does it so smoothly. I absolutely love this bike. All right, so I'm at the bottom of the hill where I test all of my e-bikes. And as you guys can see, if you look way up that hill, you can see a driveway up there. That's where it hits 19%. And we'll see how this bike does climbing up this hill. All right, so I got a little over half of a battery. I'm gonna shift into an easier gear here to get up to speed. And I've got this on boost mode as usual. We're gonna see what we can get up to. I think that this bike is gonna do phenomenal up it. The only thing that's gonna be a little bit weird is that shift sensor shutting off the motor if I have to shift. So here we are where the hill starts. We're at 18 miles an hour, and you will get a little bit of a workout when it comes to a mid-drive motor. There we go, it's kind of cut out on the shift sensor. And it feels very drastic whenever you're going up a hill, just because you're slowing down so much faster than what you would on flat. But here we are, we're going a little under 14 miles an hour. This is getting close to the 19% grade. Right up here is the 19% grade. And I'm gonna have to shift down, and woo! Okay, it's pulling, it's gaining. And I am not even in my easiest gear, and we're pulling up this hill. You can actually hear the motor for once, and it's doing pretty good. Shows that I'm putting out about 215 watts of power, and that did really nice. So there you go, that climbed the hill really, really well. It actually was able to continue to gain speed. The shift sensor did slow me down a little bit, and you just kind of have to get used to how that reacts. The Bros motor really had no issues getting up the hill. Now, I will say, if you're not wanting a lot of exercise, you're not wanting exercise at all, you're wanting to use it kind of like a moped, or maybe even like kind of like to simulate a lower powered motorcycle, a mid-drive motor may not be for you. The rear hub motor with a cadence sensor may be more of your style. And I've got a lot of those videos where I've reviewed a lot of bikes like that. But if you are into more like fitness, but you just want something to kind of get you to places a little bit faster and enjoy the outside without arriving in a full-on sweat, these mid-drive motors are definitely the way to go. All right, we're gonna get up to a little bit of speed here, and then we're gonna go coast down the hill. I'll shift into harder gear. All right, we're gonna coast. We're gonna see what this guy can get up to. I have a feeling it's gonna go fast. We got these good brakes, so we should be good. We're going 39.5 miles an hour. Let's see if we can break 40. 41.5, 42. 42 miles an hour is what I saw on the speedometer. And let me tell you, 42 on skinnier tires definitely feels incredibly fast. Going 40 miles an hour on a fat tire bike does not feel that fast, but 40 miles an hour on a skinnier tire bike, whew, it feels fast. But it was so smooth. Zero stability issues riding this bike. It's stable. This thing is rock solid. Hands down, if you're looking at a Trek or a Specialized or any other major brand that is, you know, $3,000 to $4,000, stop and take a look at this bike. This bike is definitely a winner. You're getting quality name brand parts. You're getting a quality name brand motor. You're getting really good batteries that have really good quality cells in them. Name brand tires, fenders, a headlight, a tail light, a rear rack. This bike is very impressive. Sub $2,000. Hands down, I don't think you can beat it. If you know of one that can beat this bike in all of those categories, then let me know. Put it in the comments below. So there you go. That is the Prodigy XR. And I've got to say, this bike is by far my favorite commuting bike that I have ever ridden. I can't say enough good things about this. I've actually let several people ride this around for a short period of time, and each one of them said that this thing is super smooth, super quiet, and very, very responsive. And not only that, they also complimented it in being a very comfortable ride, which is one of the most important things when it comes to a commuting style bike. I think Ride1Up has hit it out of the park with this bike, but they have recently come out with the Prodigy V2, which is an upgraded and a little bit different version than what this XR is. But I will put some links down below so you guys can check out both the Prodigy XR, the step through, the XC version, and even the V2. So I would really appreciate it if you guys are gonna purchase a Ride1Up bike and you enjoyed this video, you found it informative, use my links below. That lets Ride1Up know that you came from my video, and it'll let them give me the opportunity to review more of their bikes in the near future. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this, hit that like button, hit the subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next one.